goes and he is like what he does is he pretty much goes and he is as extreme and brutal as possible, and it scares people. It's a mafia tactic, and I bet he did this in real estate. I bet he's done this with other people, and yeah, it's a power.
I don't believe Trump was exceptionally successful with real estate, but okay.
Dynamic it is, and the thing is that it's intimidating people. It is, and the thing is that it works. It does work. That's why the people that
remember anytime, especially these like new politics people, I feel like we're in a resurgence of 2016 who don't have like any political background. When people say it works, then you need to ask how. What has it worked for in the past? Like what's one deal that Trump, just one deal that you feel Trump has negotiated because of the way that he conducts himself? One thing.
That did it back in the days, everybody still knows their name. It does work. That's why the people that did it back in the days, everybody still knows their name.
Who? If everybody knows their name, what are some? Who are we talking about here?
It's because they were so brutal and so good at doing this that they killed anybody else who went against them. That's it. It can backfire? Yeah, I know. He did it with Vince McMahon in WWE. Well, just look at the TikTok deal, mafia tactics as well. Yeah, I think the TikTok deal is a great example of that, where he basically says, we're going to ban this unless you allow it here. And its value is only derived on it being allowed here. So we're pretty much holding your company hostage until you give us your company. That's basically what he's saying. Or sell it off so we can control it.
Just to be clear, what Trump was saying was, I don't like TikTok because people don't like me on TikTok. But then when he saw that people liked him on TikTok, he said, I like TikTok. Just to be clear, that's what happened, but...
That's it. And like you can say that it will backfire. Okay. All right, we'll see what happens.
We will. We've been seeing it, but... whatever.
Like what he does is he pretty much goes and...
Men holding men accountable. That's what we need more of. Yes, king.
What teaches them to be afraid of men?
Feminism?
No, 1 second. I don't think feminism. Is it possible that their life experiences with men teach them to be afraid of men? The fact that an overwhelming majority of women have experienced some form of sexual assault at the hands of a man or sexual harassment. Ask any woman in your life about a negative experience that she's had with a man. You will be...
With a man?
It'd be hard to find one who hasn't. Do you think that's possibly what makes women afraid?
Sure. They had that analogy of the would you rather be alone with a man or a bear? And most women chose the grizzly bear that would rip them apart. That's crazy.
So wait a second. Now, granted, I am not a woman, so I don't understand the fear of walking down the street every night and feeling like I have a target on my back. So instead of looking at this and being like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. The women are insane. I'm not even going to deal with them. When I saw that trend, I was like, wow. Like that is, imagine living your life in a state where you feel like you are at risk of your physical safety from 50% of the population.
Dude, if you wanted to short circuit one of these guys' brains, if you wanted to just fucking short circuit, you should be like, oh, so you think that somebody can have a fear of a person because of a bad experience with them, and you think that's okay, and so they would rather choose to, be in a bear, or be with a bear in a forest instead of a guy? Oh, okay. Do you think that's how conservatives feel about black people? And they'll explode. You have to you need to back up because their brain might literally explode on the spot. They might not be able to handle that question.
That must be awful, and we should look into the reasons why, 97% of women have experienced some form of sexual harassment. You ask any woman if she's had an unwanted encounter of a sexual romantic nature with a man, I guarantee the overwhelming majority will be able to tell you. It comes from real life experience, not this amorphous threat of men. Men are real, and men can be very threatening because of many of the biological differences that I feel you would be very sympathetic to. I don't think I can find middle ground on this because misogyny literally kills women. And misandry...
I mean, that statement in itself...
Misogyny kills
our
women.
very presence.
No, you misunderstood me.
He said misogyny.
The hatred of women kills women.
Damn.
The hatred of men, teaching them who they are as being toxic, could lead to them ending their own lives.
Okay, some men might have a misunderstanding of what misandry is, and they might kill themselves. And that's the same.
Oh, see, when it's the guy, he has a misunderstanding.
Okay, some men might have a misunderstanding.
Also, listen, I don't care, especially at this point. Okay, I'm an incel, so fuck it. You know, think what you want about women and all that bullshit. But if we're going to talk about like women's fear of men or women's fear of men in sexual situations, I wonder, I might even use this as a hyperbolic example, but like, can we stop doing when a woman is walking home alone in an alley at night? Like, most people are not this stupid. Most women don't walk home alone at night down dark alleys. Like, you're talking about an exceptional circumstance, and it's not where most like sexual pressure or assault type situations come from anyway. So,
ending of what misandry is, and they might kill themselves. And that's the same thing as men killing women because
or
they hate
being
them.
unjustly locked up for rape accusation.
Hey.
Because automatically it's deferred that the woman is innocent, she's not guilty, and the man is.
I love you, but that's retarded. What's retarded? Most women are not walking home late at night in dark alleys. Like, this is just not normally happening. This is just not an ordinary experience.
Guilty.
What about Johnny Depp? Did that happen in that case? What about in Chris Brown? Did that happen in that case?
Chris Brown.
What about in Donald Trump? Did that happen in that case?
The woman is innocent, she's not guilty, and the man is guilty.
What about Johnny Depp? Did that happen in that case? What about in Chris Brown? Did that happen in that case?
Like, it's funny, he's going towards examples that he thinks are supporting his cause. And I mean, I kind of do, but like the examples are actually more akin to where a woman is likely to experience violence, which is living with a man or dating a man. And both of the people that he just referenced were dating or married to the man that they were with, right? Amber Heard or Rihanna, right?
Yes.
Chris Brown.
What about in Donald Trump? Did that happen in that case? What happened to Brett Kavanaugh?
Brett Kavanaugh was demonized.
What? Yeah, he was. And where is he right now?
Yeah, because
where is he right now?
It failed.
Tell me where he is. Where is he right now?
He's sitting on the Supreme Court.
Thank you.
Okay.
Misandry is normalized. It's very normalized to the point where we don't even
But you
realize
can't
it.
give me an example of it. That's what I'm wondering.
I gave you a bunch of examples.
But the examples you gave me were women trying to live their lives of their own autonomy and accord, which is saying, I don't need a man, which is fine. I don't see what world you view that as hatred unless you think you're entitled to women.
Yeah, but
That's the only way I interpret that as a hatred of man. I'm being as charitable as
Wait, say that again? All right.
Fine. Their lives of their. That's what I'm wondering.
I gave you a bunch of examples.
But the examples you gave me were women trying to live their lives of their own autonomy and accord, which is saying, I don't need a man, which is fine. I don't see what world you view that as hatred unless you think you're entitled to women.
Yeah, but
That's the only way I interpret that as a hatred of man. I'm being as charitable as I literally possibly can. The issue is you can't just say that an issue affects men, and therefore it's because we hate men.
I've literally heard women say, I hate men.
Of course,
Literally.
absolutely. And
Death to the patriarchy,
of course.
all these things.
Wait,
I've
wait a
heard
second.
that.
Death to the patriarchy means death to the societal structures in which give men more societal power than women for no reason.
Okay, wait. Okay, real quick. It's such a huge issue I have with progressives. If you want to say stuff like this, that's fine. But you can't be out here talking about microaggressions or saying that like a joke that's has a racial, like a racial joke or a sexist joke is inherently sexist or inherently bigoted or whatever. If you're going to start drawing all of these highly academic understandings and exceptions to other statements, that's just you can't expect like men and white people to never be offended by a thing or to have this highly contextualized understanding of what you mean when you say fuck all men or fuck all white people or fuck Western or whatever. You can't expect them to have that understanding. But then when somebody makes a joke about black people or women, now all of a sudden it's punching down, and now all of a sudden we have to have a serious conversation about,
That's not the hatred of men unless you think men ought to have that power because they are men. That is the only way you interpret it that way. So all I'm showing here is a lot of these ideas of what you think misandry is are just your misogynistic instincts and assumptions being exposed.
What is he demonstrating?
Dismissive of men.
Dismissive?
Showing
Hey,
this
let him
general
talk.
sentiment
Let him
of
talk.
animosity toward men. He's showing it.
How?
You just did it.
So I said that you have a disdain towards women because you view breaking down societal structures that benefit men
You called
as
me
hating men.
misogynistic.
Because that's
Do you
literally
think,
the
do you think he's
definition.
misogynistic?
Yeah, probably. I think we all are a little bit, some more than others.
don't do that. Also, don't do that, weasel. When somebody's like, "Do you think this person's a racist or do you think this person is a misogynist?" You're like, "Yes," because we all are. Okay, that's not what's being asked right now. Okay, stop.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna get.
No, granted,
to a
I want to
middle
point
ground.
something out. I don't think I'm free of misogyny either. So this is not to say that you are a terrible individual or that I am a terrible individual. I've done a lot of learning to unlearn a lot of these ideas that, frankly, I've been instilled with throughout my entire life.
Why that sound like an explosion meme at the end? Jesus. Do you think that microaggressions are real/harmful? Yeah, of course they can be, sure. I think giving the name to them and calling them microaggressions makes them sound lame, but in my personal opinion, I feel like microaggressions, unless you're getting like lynched, I feel like microaggressions are usually worse than big one-off things. At least in my personal life, I feel like the little annoying things that you experience day to day in certain situations are the things that make you want to fucking off yourself, or are the things that like super push you over the edge. But I don't know. I guess it probably depends. What even are microaggressions? Well, usually I think they're defined academically. A microaggression probably has to do with like a protected status. So somebody makes a racial or sexist comment that's not like outwardly or overly bigoted, but it kind of is, or implies bigotry in some way, or otherizes you in some way or whatever. But all right, what do I want to suffer through first? Gary Stevenson goes on Galloway show. Fuck me.
Today's number 5. That's the percentage of avocados consumed across the U.S. that Chipotle purchased last year. Ed, for me, working at Chipotle for free burritos was like working in porn, in that it was fun, but it was really rough on my asshole.
Jesus.
This is not CNBC. This is not CNBC. Ed, how are you?
I'm doing well. Your joke doesn't even make sense.
You really don't get that?
I do. I get it. It's just like, it's barely a joke.
Barely a joke. I go to Chipotle and I always click on the jokes that say NSFW because that's our brand, Ed.
Yeah, it's very good.
That's our brand. That's why we will never be acquired by Disney.
Welcome back. Here's our conversation with Gary Stevenson, host of the Gary's Economics YouTube channel. Gary, thank you for joining us on Prof G Markets.
Thanks for having me.
I just want to point out, before we get going here, Gary, you are, I think, the most sought-after guest we have ever had on this program. I looked through the comments on our YouTube channel, on our Spotify. Our entire audience has been begging for you to come join the show for maybe a year, maybe 2 years. So this is like a big moment for all of us, and we're very happy to have you on today. So thank you. Seriously, thank you for joining us. Let's start off with just the rundown of who you are and how you got here. You talk a lot about what's happening to the economy, particularly in terms of inequality. Where did this all begin for Gary Stevenson?
Well, it probably mainly started when I was working as a trader at Citibank.
Scott will agree with Gary on a lot of shit, and you'll see that he's a retard as well. Yeah, this is going to shatter my love for Scott. It's not really. I already know that Scott is a little bit wacky, I'll say, when it comes to things like education, for instance. Like, I think he thinks that school is kind of a scam or something. He's said questionable things about it, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where we go.
So to give a little background for those who don't know me, I'm from London. I grew up in a place called Ilford, East London, quite a poor family. Was very good at maths, managed to get into the London School of Economics, which is a very fancy elite university here. And when I was there, I won a competition called the Trading Game, which used to be run by Citibank. And through that, I got a job working as a short-term interest rates trader for Citibank here in London. And I worked there from June 2008 through the crisis. And I basically made my money by predicting that we would have a very weak recovery from the 2008 crisis. People sometimes forget that during the crisis itself and immediately afterwards, we basically had 12 years, I guess, from 2008 up till COVID, of continual predictions that we'd have a really strong recovery, which never really happened. Markets spent almost the whole time saying interest rates will go up aggressively next year for that whole period, 2008 to 2020, which obviously was incorrect for...
Scott is a real ass businessman. Please, Scott, you should be able to call this fucking bullshit out. Please, Scott, please.
In the UK, the whole period, rates never went up until after the COVID crisis. these are really big, important questions, right? Which is, when will like the structural fall in living standards end? When will the economy get back to normal? And I thought you could boil down the question in 2011 and really that whole post-2008 period to a simple question, which is, why aren't people spending money? Because the theory is supposed to be zero interest rates are supposed to get people spending. They're supposed to get businesses spending. You know, the logic is not that complicated. There's no point saving. It's cheap to borrow. Go spend, go spend. And that's what you learn at university. That's what's supposed to happen. But by the beginning of 2011, it should have been starting to become clear in my mind that it wasn't happening. And I really wanted to understand why. So I come from quite a poor background, and I decided that I was just going to go and just ask people, you know, why don't you spend more money?
Why is this guy bullshit? There's a couple of, there's a few things that should be red flags. One is that he lies about his work history quite a bit. He dramatically oversells how talented or good he was as a trader. He was like middling at best. He was just an average, whatever, trader guy. Number one, and then number two, when it comes to like his actual like econ stuff, basically the only policy stuff he ever says is buy my book and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which should probably be a red flag, but.
And you could
then past that, most of his econ analysis is just incredibly simplistic and not very good.
Really guess what they say, right? Like 9 out of 10 people are saying we don't spend any more money because we don't have any more money. You know, we're spending more than is coming in, right? And I didn't just take their word here, right? If you dig in, what I saw then in the early 2010s, I would have been in my early 20s then. What I saw was a generation, our parents' generation, of like poor property owners. So like my dad earned like less than average income, but he owned his own property, right? And that was very common in this country. And then I saw my generation of like kind of highly educated people who would never be able to afford property. And what you see there.
Sorry, I'm trying to stay away from takes that I know my whole community will hate me for, but somebody posted something on my subreddit to disprove my assertion that first-time home buyers, I think, have been a fairly constant age for all of U.S. history. I feel like I save posts on my Reddit account, and it doesn't actually show up under save. It's driving me crazy. God damn it. Somebody link it. Somebody linked this. Correcting Destiny's take on the housing situation. Destiny claimed on stream today that the first-time buying age probably hasn't changed much. From 91 to 2024, the median home buyer age went from 35 to 56. For first-time median home buyers, it went from 28 in 1991 to 38 in 2024. So the interesting thing is, one, he abbreviates this chart a little bit, but it's actually been steadier than even I had thought. Oh, actually, wait, he doesn't abbreviate this one on this site. There's a longer one, though, that... So the average age has increased a bit, but in like 1980, it was like 29. And then in 2018, it was like 32. And then over COVID, shit got pretty fucked, which is true. And it pushed a lot of people out of being able to buy homes. So over the past couple of years, it's been pretty bad, but my guess is it's going to probably go back down, but more or less it's been about steady. I was kind of surprised because I would have assumed that in the 80s, I thought this would have actually been lower for first-time home buyers. I wouldn't have thought it would have been 29 years old, but I like that somebody linked this and they thought that like these last 3 years for COVID have definitely exacerbated issues, but it's not like homes have been completely and totally out of reach for everybody in the United States for a decade or a generation or whatever, but yeah. Not to say that housing hasn't gotten more expensive or there are other issues with housing. There are. It's just not as dramatic as people say it is.
It's basically the loss of the wealth of the middle class. And it totally answers the question of why aren't people spending money, right? Because if a family is going from being a property-owning family to being a non-property-owning family, in this country, the UK, property is the main way in which people hold wealth as a family.
So it looks like he did work where he says he did, but he might have exaggerated how successful he actually was while working there. Well, there's two things that he probably lies about when it comes to his working background, or I would say he definitely lies about. One is that the particular trades that he was doing weren't incredibly like high skilled trades where you have to be incredibly sharp or like a master trader. Like there's a lot of trading that companies engage in that's just kind of like day-to-day stuff that's pretty normal. And it might even be really high volume, but low volatility. Like it's pretty safe stuff. You're expected to make money on it. He wasn't involved in any like crazy trades. Number one. Number two, the amount of money that he made for Citibank when he was working there wouldn't have put him on the top of any list ever. But he says he was the most profitable trader like in the world, or at least, or sometimes he says for Citibank for a year, but that's just not true. He would have never been at that level. So it's just
Owning family. In this country, the UK, property is the main way in which people hold wealth as a family. What you are seeing is these guys are spending more than their income over the long term. Their wealth is going down over the long term. They are dissaving over the long term. So they are obviously already spending in an unsustainably large way. Like they literally cannot spend more in a sustainable way. And this was what was bouncing around my head in the beginning of 2011. And then I got called into a meeting by one of Citibank's top economists, a guy who I really rate actually. I'm quite critical of economists, but I think he was really good. And this was in early 2011. And he went through the financial situation of a lot of the world's major governments. Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, Ireland. But also, to be honest, the UK, the US, Japan. And what he saw was in basically every instance, governments spending more than their income, dissaving their assets, and going further and further into debt. And I came out of that meeting, I couldn't help but notice this like symmetry in the financial situation of my friends and their family.
Yes, I see Just Brandon. I see you're spamming in chat like, oh, well, that stat could be misleading. You'll say that every stat is misleading. When it comes to housing shit, there's no point in even researching it. You're always just going to have your feeling on it and no amount of data will ever change it. You'll say it's misleading. You just link something to show that the rates have changed over time. Like, look at your axis. Like, it's going from 70 to 63. So your thing goes back to 1980, where the home ownership rate was 65.5%, and it peaks before the